Hello everyone. Today we'll be unboxing another figurine for the week. Here we have is a figurine for the manufacturer and distributor, Good Smell Company. A figurine part of their pop-up parade line is an L-size PVC figure of the characters Anarchy Panty and Anarchy Stocking, repent version from the series Panty Stocking with Garterbelt or Panty and Stocking with Garterbelt. As always, before we take the figurines out of their packaging, just in case you didn't know, Panty and Stocking with Garterbelt or Panties and Stocking with Garterbelt is an anime originally produced by Gainax in October of 2010, consisting of 13 episodes. Written by a group called Geek Fleet, who consist of people like Hiromi Wakabayashi, Hiroshi Seko, Targo, Masahiko Otsuka, Hiroyuki Imaishi, and others. I also wanted to mention that Studio Gainax is the same studio that worked on other series like Shinseki Evangelion in 1995, Furikuri in 2000s, Fushigi no Umi no Nadia in 1990s, and others. Panty and Stocking also has a manga published in Kadokawa Shoten's Young Ace in August of 2010, written by Targo. Hiroyuki Imaishi formerly worked at Gainax till he moved to co-found Studios Trigger, which the Panty and Stocking series went to Trigger. Which brings us to modern day, new Panty and Stockings with Garterbelt got an adaptation in 2025 by Studios Trigger. So here we have is Anarchy Panty and Anarchy Stocking in their transformed or repent version, made as a pop-up parade L figurine. This is their box rotating in 360. So without holding you guys back, let's just take the figurines out of their packaging and see how they look, starting with Anarchy Panty. So here we have is Anarchy Panty straight out of her packaging, and as you can see here, she's well protected with all this plastic and also bubble wrapping, protecting the figurine so it doesn't get any damages, on the paint or on the figurine. So, just like we always do with every other figurine, let's just remove all this excess plastic and see how the figurine looks. So here we have is the base, which is nothing really too special, but at the bottom of the base, just like we saw when we previously unboxed the original Panties and Stocking pop-ups, or like the regular versions, it does have information which is the same. As you can see, Hiroyuki and Trigger and other info for the figurine. So it's kind of the same, but this time it's for this L size, and it's kind of almost similar base where it's just a translucent plastic, and there's nothing really too special about it. There's two little inserts on the top here for when you place the character on top of. But besides that, again, like I stated earlier, there's nothing really too special about it, so we're just gonna move on to the figurine. So here we have is Panty when she does her transformation or her repent version, as it's titled. And as you can see here, we're going to do like we do with every other figurine, is look at towards the bottom of her shoe or by her foot area going all the way up. And as you can see here, there's actually a white plastic here on the bottom, which does not come off, so you can't really remove this unless you maybe use a heat gun, that you could remove it. And I did also want to mention that you can see here it's actually standing on just one foot, so I'm gonna be hopeful that there's no leaning issues with this, and hopefully they have it in a balanced state where it doesn't really put too much weight on the foot here, so maybe in the future it doesn't really start leaning. It's some issue that I see with another figurine where it starts to lean because it's only standing on one foot, so I'm gonna hope that it doesn't really have that issue. But as you can see here, we have is her heel, which is painted gold, and it's a little bit reflective, and there's a little bit of like a shiny tint to the gold here, which It's kind of hard to tell because my camera's not the best, but it does have a kind of like a sparkly look towards the gold around it, which is pretty nice touch. I think they did a pretty nice paint work here, and you do see there's 2 wings on her heels compared to Stocking, which doesn't really have that, because I think both of them obviously have a different aesthetic to them, so they fit with their, you know, design. And as you can see here, going up to her foot, we have this little gold what you call it, shin guard on the side, where you see is like stylized in that same pattern we see on her shoe or heel. And the wings here are actually a little bit flexible, but I advise don't really do that as much because you can kind of snap it off, or it feels like you can snap it off. And as you can see here, I just noticed that her toes here, the paint is chipped, or I don't know what's going on here. It's like kind of like messed up, the PVC here. It's kind of lifted off the nail, so I'm not certain if that's supposed to be the paint or the plastic that's kind of ripping off here, which is kind of a bad sign. Again, that could just be my figurine, so maybe when you get your figurine, or if you have one, maybe yours doesn't come like this, but that's kind of, it's kind of noticeable. So I did want to say that's something that maybe Good Smile Company could maybe quality check, because usually I notice that their pop-up parade tends to be in a mixed quality. But seeing that, it kind of makes me a little bit worried for the rest of the figurine. So going up to her heel here, and again we see is another spot here where you see the gold on her little, I'm just gonna call it a shin guard section here. The paint is actually chipping off here from the top, not the middle area because that's supposed to be like that, but the little paint on the tip of that opening section is ripped off. So we got this, and we got the toe here, which the paint is kind of messed up. So a little bit bad part on Good Smile Company. Again, a disclaimer, that could just be my figurine. If it happens to me, there's a possibility that it could also happen to you guys, so just be cautious when you get these figurines. But going off with the rest of the paint, I think they did a pretty nice job. It's the same paint job we saw with the other foot, and because she's actually posed in like a shooting pose, I guess you can call it, she has her heel bent here and her leg standing straight up. And we can see the sculpt work on her thigh here looks actually pretty nice. They give it like a plump look to it, and it looks actually well painted as well with her flesh color. And I think it's the sculptor is called Moto and Sparrow Co. So I think they actually did a pretty nice sculpt work here, where you can see from the bottom of her hips and by her underwear, it looks actually really well sculpted. She actually feels, it looks like it's a soft look to it, if you know what I'm trying to say, but not gonna get too explicit here, but it does have like a nice sculpt work by her thigh area. It feels like it looks soft, so they did a pretty nice job with that. And I think the underwear actually looks pretty nicely sculpted. It's a little bit hard to see because her thighs are kind of like closed, like, you know, like how women close their feet, so you don't really get that much of a view. And also the sculpt work here with her skirt here looks actually pretty nice. The paint work, which I think is on the website, says that it's supposed to be Tomofumi. I think they did a pretty nice job with this. I'm not certain if this is a machine that paints it or they're the ones that hand paint all these figurines. I gotta do my research on that and see if they all hand paint these individually. But you do see that the paint is like somewhat mixed in some areas, where you do see some of the creases around here are a little bit like iffy. And I did want to say this little fabric spot here actually is a little bit flexible, but don't really be flexing it too much because it does kind of feel like you can snap it off. And here we have is the little pink hearts that's around her waist area, which actually look really nicely painted. And the gold here looks also painted pretty nicely. Here we have is her stomach area, where you do see a little bit of ribs. So she has that slender, slim look, which actually looks pretty nice. You do see she has like the outlines around here by her fabric from her bosom area, which they did a pretty nice job with that. And the paintwork looks actually, you know, a lot better than what we saw on the bottom of her legs. And she has this long hair, so it's kind of hard to show you up close, but you do see they kind of gave it a little bit of sculpt work by her back area there, which actually looks pretty nice. And the hair here also looks really detailed. You do see each tip here is a little bit flexible, but not too much. But I don't think it's too much of a worry if you bend it too much. It doesn't feel as fragile as the other little fabric on her skirt or the angel wings on her legs. So I think these are a little bit more durable than that. And here's the other side of her waist area, and by the section of her bosom, where you can see they did give a crease lines around her bra or upper shirt. It's kind of like I kind of have a brain fog right now, but yeah, you can see the fabric there looks actually pretty nicely sculpted. The paintwork is kind of mixed, but the creases around it looks actually pretty good. Here's the top section where we have this heart shape by her chest area, where it's kind of blocking her cleavage, but I think it's still a pretty nice sculpt. I actually really like the way this looks. Here's her hand, where you see she's doing like a little shooting pose, which, because she's kind of like a lighter skin tone and she does have like the pink nails, I noticed that she does have a heart-shaped ring on her, which from the camera it kind of looks a little confusing, but she does have a pretty nice sculpt from her fingers there. So I want to apologize, my camera's kind of capturing a little bit, looks a little bit weird, but it actually looks like a pretty decent sculpt when it comes to her fingers, and they did a pretty nice job painting the white on her palms. So here's her face, which you can see she has an expression of like an open mouth. She's like kind of like almost like in a yelling stance. And I think they did a pretty nice job on her eyebrows and her eyes. I think they're painted pretty well. You do see is like kind of she has a little bit of earrings and piercings there, which kind of look really nice. Here's the rest of her hair sculpt on the back, where you do see she has the angel wings, where rather than being connected from her actual body, it's connected to her hair, which matches because I think the wings are supposed to be floating, but obviously I don't think there's any way you can have the wings floating, so it's obviously going to be in the hair. But here on the side, you see the sculpt work of the top of her hair from her front section, which looks really well detailed with all the sculpted single like strands representing the hair, which looks actually really amazing. The paint in some areas of the hair could have done a little bit of work, and I really like the little cowlick on the top, which is flexible, but it kind of does feel like you can snap it, so just don't really be flexing that area too much. And besides that, this is the top view of the figurine, and overall that's the entirety of the figurine. I actually really like the way this figurine looks, minus the paint issues with the leg area. I feel like could have maybe done a little bit of work, but it doesn't really overall ruin the figurine. But I actually really like this. So let's connect this to the base and move on to the next character. So we're going to be moving on to stocking. So here we have is Anarchy Stocking straight out of her packaging, and as you can see here, she's also covered with protective plastic and bubble wrapping, protecting the figurine and keeping it safe and locked in place so it doesn't cause any damage for the figurine. But hopefully the paint is also in decent condition. So just like we do with every other figurine, let's just remove all this excess plastic and see how the figurine looks up close. So here we have is Anarchy Stocking's base, and as you can see here, it's kind of similar to Panties that we did, or that I showed you guys earlier. At the bottom has similar text and information at the bottom of the figurine, where you can see it does have Hiroyuki, Trigger, and Panties and Stocking abbreviated, and other info at the bottom. But again, this is kind of similar to, you know, all the other pop-up parade figurines bases. It's a bit translucent and kind of like simplistic, so I'm not really gonna go too much into the figurine. The top does have these two little lines. I forgot to show you guys that in the other figurine, but it also has that as well. But again, it's probably just during manufacturing. So let's just move on to the actual figurine. So here we have is Anarchy Stocking's transformed repent version metamorphosis figurine. And as you can see here, we're going to be starting from the bottom of her foot area, and she has the similar plastic that we saw with Panty's figurine, and you cannot remove this section. I did try to pull it, and you can't really take this section off, which is supposed to be supporting the figurine when you place it onto the base. But as you can see here, the paintwork is silver compared to gold that we had on Panty, and you can see her nails are more of a purplish bluish color, which gives it, you know, the similar vibe that she has, because she has more of a gothic look compared to Panty. And as you can see here, the silver actually is painted almost similar to what we saw with Panty, where she has gold, but instead she has a silver, you know, reflective glossiest type coloring on her heel area, which actually looks a lot better, well, in terms of the character, because imagine seeing Stocking with gold. That was like a little bit weird. But you do see here, I do really love the coloring. I feel like the darker color kind of shows a little bit more than what we saw with Panty when it comes to her pink nails. The blue nails actually complements the figurine, or the detail of the figurine a little bit more. So going up her leg, she has a similar pose that we saw with Panty, but she's in the opposite direction, where you see she has her legs slightly upwards. And you can see here from her thigh area, amazing sculpt work here. It actually brings off like it has that look of softness towards her thigh and from her bottom section there, which looks really good because it kind of looks soft. I apologize if I'm going a little bit like explicit here, but yeah. And I noticed that she's a little bit bigger than Panty, which is actually really good. Which I think in the show you do see she's actually has a little bit more compared to Panty's more slimmer. She's a little bit more thicker because she's kind of like the snack gluttony character, so it kind of makes sense. But I actually really do like this. It's actually sculpted a lot better than Panty, which kind of makes me, you know, prefer Stocking a little bit more than Panty. But going up here from her skirt, you do see here we have is almost a similar skirt job or paint job we have here, because I think it's the same paintwork artist as the last figurine, which is Tomofumi. Actually looks pretty nice. The paintwork looks, you know, okay, and towards the bottom section of the frills, but the top section here, you see it's aligned pretty nicely. There's some areas like here where you do see they kind of missed the paint there, where they left it white, and there's another section over here which is kind of like over that line, so like some areas is not completely aligned, but some areas are. But there's not really too much that, you know, messes up the figurine entirely. Here's the heart-shaped bow, similar to what we saw with Panty, but instead it's blue rather than pink. And you do see here the other side. It's a little bit hard to show you the back section of it because she has this really large hair sculpt at the back, so I can't really show you the back or the rest of the skirt area, but you do see it's actually sculpted similarly. And here's her stomach, which I noticed that there's a little bit of like a line by her hip area, which it kind of like, it doesn't really ruin the figurine, but it kind of looks a little bit weird. And we do see here's the front lace from her dress connected to her upper section there, which they sculpted it quite well. But I noticed that there's a small little line here in between this little, like it's almost supposed to be like a paintwork they were supposed to put there, but they kind of messed up and they're like, oh wait, there's not supposed to be a line there, so they didn't paint it. Similar to this section where you do see her waist, but there's a little line right here where I'm pointing. It's a little bit hard to tell because my camera's not really picking it up, but if I kind of tilt the figurine here and let the light hit it in a certain angle, it kind of, you could kind of see what I'm talking about. There's this little lump here, like right here. It looks a little bit weird. I don't know, I think they were trying to do like maybe like a crease, but it kind of like doesn't really look right. Here's the top section of her bosom where she has a blue heart compared to the pink heart that we saw with Panty. And as you can see here, her top chest area is actually sculpted quite detailed here, similar to what we saw with Panty. She does have a little bit of fabric folds there where it kind of looks like it's tight on her bra, and then the armpit sculpt here actually looks pretty nice. So far I have not seen any issues on the figurine, so it's actually turning out a lot better than what we saw like initially with Panty. So here's the top section here, where you do see is a lot of cleavage here on top of Stocking, and you do see she has a little larger bosom area compared to Panty, which you know I won't say much about that, but yeah, she's actually quite well detailed here. She does have, you see in the top of her neck area, she does have kind of like a sculpted collarbone on the front. It's kind of hard to see if you're not really focused on her cleavage area, but she does have a little bit of collarbone there on her neck area. So here we have is her with her little pose here, where you do see is her hand in a similar gesture that we saw with Panty. And again, because her nails are actually painted in a bluer tone, you can kind of see a little bit better compared to Panty's fingernails. And it's actually sculpted quite well. Do be careful with the little bracelets around her wrists. Do feel a little fragile, so just be careful if you don't really put too much pressure on that area. So here's her face sculpt here, which she has a similar, expression where she has her open mouth, almost like she's yelling like, "You guys ready to repent?" or something, like to the little ghosts that they fight. You do see she does have eyebrows. It's kind of hard to show you guys a good look of her face because of this, her hands are sticking out, so I can't really, show you it too much. But I think they did a pretty nice paint job on her eyes. You do see her front bangs there, kind of covering her eyebrows. But here's her side profile, and here's the other side of her face. And as you can see here, the paint on the top, you do see here from her front bangs there, the paint on the pink section looks okay. You could kind of see there's some areas where they could have done a little bit of work, like this section here where it kind of blends and it kind of looks a little bit like it wasn't painted the best, but it still looks pretty good. It's not really something that ruins the overall figurine. That's maybe something nitpicky that I'm saying here, but it still actually looks pretty decent. But I feel like they could have done a little bit of work. But you do see they did sculpt in the individual lines, which gives it a lot more detail. And I did want to show you guys the whole hair sculpt now, because it's the biggest part that's covering the rest of the figurine. And as you can see here, they have a similar paint job where some areas are pink and some areas are blue. And you do see there's some areas, again, just like we saw on the top of her bangs, the pink is kind of like faded at some areas. I feel like they could have done a better job with the paint there. The sculpt work overall actually looks pretty nice. You do see it's like quite detailed with all these little lines around it, rather than just plain flat that we saw with the regular Papa figurine. And each part of her hair is flexible, so you don't really need to worry too much about bending this. But I do advise don't really bend it too much, so you don't bend the plastic. But you see here from the bottom, if I bend the hair from the back section, we could see her back here, where you do see the sculpt work on her back looks pretty nice. The paintwork there also actually looks really nice as well. I see everything looks actually pretty nice at the bottom. And besides that, the back side of the hair here looks okay as well. You do see it's kind of darker shaded towards the tips, while it heads all the way straight up. It's a more lighter blue, which is, a pretty good paint job work here. And okay, this part here, you do see the paint is kind of chipped here from this section of her hair, like right here. But I don't really think that little piece kind of ruins the whole figurine. I think it's just a little section there which I can overlook. You do see she has a similar wings on her hair rather than her back, because I think that her wings are supposed to be floating, but obviously that's impossible to do with the figurine, so it's obviously going to be on her hair. And you can see here the two angel wings that are painted just pure white, and then we have her bow on the top, which is just straight on top. So this is the top view of the figurine, and overall a really nicely painted figurine compared to Panty. And she's a lot more, thicker in some areas, which makes me solidifies my reason why I like Stocking a lot more than Panty. Nothing really else too much to show you, so let's just add Stocking to her base, then continue on with the video. So because this is the Panty and Stocking set where you come bundled together, you do get this extra base here where you can actually connect both of them onto this base that unifies both of them together. So as you can see here, it's actually a similar base where it's like a translucent base, and you do get the little inserts at the top, but flipping it over at the bottom, we get it's the same information we get, just like we saw with the regular bases. You see it says Hiroyuki, trigger, and other info at the bottom there. And looking at this base, it kind of similar to another base from another figurine, but you do see the insert holes are obviously matching, for one for Stocking and one's for Panty. And like I said, this looks similar to Ryuko's base, but this one's white and translucent while the other one's black. So here's Ryoko's pop-up parade, which you can see here. This is probably why it was similar to me. This is the exact same base that she has, but rather than being black, it's more of a white base, which you can see they're actually similar. So this is the same size. Obviously different insert holes, where here is obviously dedicated for Panty and Stocking's transformed state. So let's just take them out their original base and add them to this one. Alright guys, so that's going to be the end of this one. So that was Good Smile Company's pop-up parade L-size PVC figure of the characters Anarchy Panty and Anarchy Stocking from the series Panty and Stocking with Garterbelt. Overall, I gotta say, is a really amazing figurine. Obviously in the description it's credited to the sculpt work Moto and Sparrow Co, and the paintwork was Tomofumi. And I think they did a pretty nice job on these figurines. I don't know what happened with the, messed up paint job in some of the areas of the figurines, which obviously I think Good Smile Company needs to quality check their figurines, because it's a lot of times I've noticed that some of the paint are actually kind of messed up on some of their figurines. But like I said in a comment when someone said something about the paintwork, it's kind of a roulette, so yours might come excellent or yours might come like mine did. It doesn't overall ruin the figurine. I know there's other transformed state figurines out there which honestly look really nice as well. The dancing poles that they have, which other figurines have and this one doesn't. But it's still a great figurine overall. I really hope they make the other characters, which would be really cool to have as well, like we do with the regular panties in the transformed state. So what do you guys think of the figurine? Is it worth getting, or maybe you can go get the older ones? But anyways guys, that's gonna be the end of this one. I don't want to keep holding you guys back too long. So if you have not actually checked out Panties and Stocking, I highly recommend it. It's such a great, amazing show, and the soundtrack that you're hearing in the background is actually really amazing as well. So that's going to be the end of this one guys. So I'm going to leave you guys off with the figurine rotating in 360 and other close-up shots. So as I always say, always support the original creators for said series of figurines that we unbox. Thank you guys for always coming to the channel and supporting. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. But yeah, hopefully they make the other characters, because I would like to see them in a pop-up form. It'll be really cool.
inside of you. I know you know they do get naughty too. Before I go, there's something